drop box.
Yeah, that's one. Okay.
Because I had that last, and they had one, I don't have my passport for that.
I brought a copy with me.
I had to download those.
Well, I can read, I just have mine for me, it's just the audience.
I did this.
I can't.
No, she didn't.
I can't even think. I'm so tired.
I do.
All right. Thank you. I'll be lucky if I can get 5 words out tonight. I'm tired.
It's gonna be short.
And don't say anything. Okay.
Is this gonna mess you up, Rich?
No, I've got one here too.
Ladies and gentlemen, 6 p.m., so we'll call the meeting in order for the Upson County Board of Commissioners for Tuesday, January the 11th. If you would at this time, please rise for our invocation and followed by our pledge.
Lord bless these people as they try to do the business of the county here, and all these people that attended here, please keep them healthy and let them take their journey home safe. All this we ask in your Son, Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. If you join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Good crowd tonight. Appreciate y'all coming out. A little red and black in the crowd, and I know everybody had a long night. We're all tired, so if we mess up a little bit tonight, stumble on some words, just bear with us because some of us have had a long night, long day.
I wanna see Alan wear a Georgia shirt.
So,
I didn't say it, probably gonna do it.
okay. I think we have a minor change we want to make to the agenda tonight. So under item D, under the consent, strike the word approval and just acceptance of an agreement there in that line. Could I get a motion to amend the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to amend the agenda. All in favor, just so show of hands. That's Jason, that's unanimous. Okay. Public hearing for SPX 2021-11, applicant and property owner S&S Williams Trust of Upson County, Georgia, requested the Upson County permit many warehouses to be built at 1749 U.S. Highway 19 off of Echo Circles. And so, public hearing, we have one, and Mr. Callahan. So we can have a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, open the public hearing. Public hearing is open. So Mr. Callahan, you signed up. Is there anything other outside your application here you want to say, or you're just here for?
I'm just here as the agent for the property.
Okay. If we have any questions or anything
Yes,
like that, so okay. All right.
Motion to close.
Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Public hearing is closed. Okay, Mr. Courier.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I apologize to the audience. Unfortunately, we're having IT problems here, so you'll certainly be able to follow along in the staff report. I'll be highlighting the report, certainly not addressing everything in it. The applicant and the property owner is S&S Williams Trust. Sidney M. Williams is the deputy trustee. Mr. Callahan is the appointed representative. He intends on purchasing the 4.13 acres located at 1749 US 19. There's also considerable frontage on Echo Circle, as you'll see in the graphics, and we'll go over, talk about in the maps. The property is currently Zone C2. It's located between the shop, you may recall a couple of years ago, doing a special exception for that project, and then the Dollar General, of course, is on the frontage of that block. C2 is the dominant zoning in the area. The M1 reference here is the DOT offices on the old airport grounds. As required by our ordinance and state law, you have general review standards by which these sorts of projects must be reviewed by. In the staff analysis, you'll see that these standards are analyzed. Basically, these are passive type uses. You're seeing the beginning, maybe. We're told that in the market right now, there's a great demand for mini storage, self-storage units. So this is one of two that are in your pipeline already, and there's already discussion about a third project out there. These tend to have little impact other than the aesthetics, potentially stormwater, depending on how much impervious surface there is, and you hope that the design, the engineering done for the particular project takes care of any stormwater type issues. So they aren't necessarily nuisances, they aren't necessarily detrimental to the neighborhoods they're in, if they're well managed and well maintained, and if they're conditioned correctly. And as you know, right now, we don't have our corridor ordinance, which may or may not address these sort of uses, and we don't have an ordinance specifically for mini warehouses, so we sort of rely on the conditions imposed to take care of any impacts, especially the aesthetic, the visual impacts that you may have concerns about. So a lot of these impacts, the standards, everything could go wrong or everything could be perfectly wonderful depending on management and the design of the project. Any future requirements would include building permits for the units, paying the occupation tax on an annual basis. Of course, there are state laws that regulate these sorts of uses, at least in certain parts of their operations. The staff recommendation is for approval. I cite the reasons in the staff report. The Planning Commission did hear this case at their December 13th meeting. They recommended approval unanimously with some conditions, which I'm going to be sort of thorough about going through these with you. The first one deals with the project design materials. There was discussion about when they would want to see those and when they would be presented. It was the Planning Commission's decision that they would be presented at the permit portion of the process, that staff would do the review. And here you can see the list of the things that, the minimum expectations that would be in that packet. We would expect to see asphalt driving area, security gate at the Eccles Circle entrance, which would be offset at least 50 feet off of Eccles Circle right away. There would be security cameras and lighting on all the buildings, and there would be a description of the building materials, obviously what they are, and their color at a minimum we would expect. The second one, the Planning Commission wanted certain uses prohibited. Most of these were agreed to by the applicant. Outdoor storage of any type, including vehicle and boat storage, rental truck businesses, residential manager employee housing. Very often these have residential managers. That's not going to be in this facility. The permanent signage is to be at Eccles Circle only. That was agreed to. Any additional development, you'll see in the graphic that there is approximately an acre that is the frontage for this lot. It was agreed to that the only development that's being approved here is the retention pond in that area, that if any further development was to happen on that 1 acre, that would be brought back through the process. And then finally, there's not really a definition of what these facilities are, so number 5 is basically just a definition of what mini storage or a self-storage facility is. We go through the graphics. There's an aerial photograph where you'll see this parcel between the Dollar General and the shop. There's another graphic in there that shows you the shop is acquired. I actually talked to one of the owners today, and they've acquired a portion of that property. So they're going to, the shop will be expanding their facility into that vacant property. So the mini warehouses aren't going to take up all of it. You'll see in the graphic my approximation of where the shop is bought up to when the remainder of the property, that is where the mini warehouses will be built. You then go into the photographs where you can see the lay of the land, the fact that it is vacant and basically a pasture type area now. There is a structure on this property, I believe was a residence and maybe an office at one time. It's pretty close to 19. We were advised by the applicant that will be knocked down. Any office facility will be part of the storage units. This building will not be used. And then there are photographs in there of the Dollar General and what it is constructed, what its appearance is, and then the shop. We are advised by the applicant that these units will have a similar look to these two buildings. So what you see there is very similar to what they will have. There are other photographs in there that, that Eccles Circle to the north is duplexes, single-family residential, so we've got photographs in there. That concludes my staff report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Curry. So, gentlemen, you have staff report and a recommendation from the Planning Commission. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a comment and a couple of questions. Comment, I talked to the neighbor, the shop, prior to this, and they're in support of it. So that was one of the neighbors that I talked to out there. My question is, I got this packet with some design options. Are these similar to what you're looking at doing out there?
Yes, sir, it's very similar. The exterior of the indoor facility, climate control facilities will be metal, very similar to the shop and Dollar General. I would like to have the office brick, just I think it gives kind of curb appeal, and the entranceway will have brick columns. Just I think I like the look of it.
Okay. And then on the on this concept kind of site plan, I'm assuming there's still some work that you're going to do here, but it has the retention pond at the very front off 19. I'm assuming that's because it's the low spot. Is there any way that can be pushed back a little bit to where it's not?
I sure hope so.
Okay.
I wanted to give you worst case scenario
Okay.
due to elevation. I would love to move it up closer to the buildings.
Yeah.
But I'd rather give you worst case and come back with something that you can do. It's the way I drew it in. It was directly adjacent to the retention pond for Dollar General. I felt like that was worst case scenario.
Okay.
But looking at the elevation, and I don't see where it's going to be a problem to move it up the hill.
Yeah. They're not always pretty.
No.
That's all I had.
All of saw this. This was provided some months ago. Mr.
Mr. Chairman, I just got a comment I'd like to make. This is more for staff than it is for anything. We got to do better. We got a room full of folks here. We got folks watching on YouTube, and we conduct a business in the dark right here. This is unacceptable to me. We got an IT department. We got computers. We got to do better. That's all I got to say about that.
Okay. So Mr. Courier, so C2, one of the conditions, third condition here says permanent signage will only be located on Eccles Circle. What was the discussion on that? Why would they do that? I mean, you're on the Highway 19 corridor, there's thousands of signs there. Why would we take a...
That would be a question for Mr. Callahan. That was sort of a negotiation between him and the Planning Commission. I don't know that it was a...
Mr. Callahan, do you recall why they didn't want your sign down by Highway 19?
It just didn't seem like a popular opinion that night, so that was kind of why
Okay.
I agreed to.
And yeah. Okay.
I would love the option for it, but
Okay. And you don't intend to, at any point, store boats and vehicles? You're doing many warehouses,
yes, sir.
climate control storage. You're not interested in using that space for
I'll tell you my
a
reason
parking
there.
lot?
No, I'll tell you my reason there. I have a boat and an RV, and I know every time you use it, you have to work on it, and I don't want a lot of people out there working on stuff, so.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
It's all paved, correct?
Yes, sir.
That's all.
Asphalt.
No gravel.
Outside of, the area down there to the retention pond of 19 green
Undeveloped.
space.
The undeveloped.
And then all that'll be coming back to the planning, or No, y'all will be looking at it from a building permit perspective when he submits this.
Based on these conditions, yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, well, gentlemen, if there's no other comments or questions, I mean, is there a motion on this application?
I'm gonna offer motion to approve it as a staff recommendation.
With the conditions?
With the conditions.
And, okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, so I have a motion made and seconded to approve this application with the conditions as outlined, and we won't go over those again. So, any other discussion? I would tell you, and this is just me, I mean, there's other commissioners involved in this too, that if at any point you feel like you're being disenfranchised because you can't put a sign out there by the road and you got a million other businesses out there, you know, you can always come back and ask.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but I don't want to back up and let's move forward. So, hearing no other discussion. Jason.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilder,
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington,
Yes.
Chairman Allen.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Make it pretty
Yes, sir.
and profitable.
Yes, sir.
All right. Next on the agenda are public comments. As always, I call your name. If you'd stand, come forward. State your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes. Mr. Self.
Okay. A lot of y'all have already heard this, but I feel like that I've got to stay with this thing until I hear something from somebody other than nothing ain't gonna change. So what I would like to see is this, the wording in the waiver change somewhat. I'll go along with all that fully, I understand, and I assume the risk and all that stuff, and then I accept all these people, but it gets down to the part where I hold them harmless for any injury that I might suffer in the normal course of participation in the activity program, class, or sport, or activities incidental thereto. And I go along with that. I want to say there, put in there now, except as a result of negligence, gross negligence, and any other cause, which is the words in this thing here, but I add on the part of the above entities. Now, anything that results in all of that, negligence, gross negligence, any cause on the part of the above entities, which is the Recreation Department, the city, the county, all of the employees. Now, I don't want that negligence, gross negligence, or any cause that they can do anything they want to out there, and I can't come back and say that I should have some recourse for their negligence, for the Recreation Department's negligence. Now, in saying that, if they, take that, put that negligence in there, and I don't have to sign it, I give up all of my rights to that kind of thing, then I'll sign it. I know I've got to have my own self. I've got to hold them harmless for anything that I do. But if I didn't do it, I shouldn't have to hold them harmless for that. Okay, I've talked to a lot of the commissioners. I've talked to a lot of people. Some would sign it and say that it don't mean nothing. I've even talked to some lawyers that said it don't mean nothing. We sue them anyhow. Whether I sign this waiver or not. Now, if that's true, then why have it? Why put that in there that I can't play pickleball out there if I don't sign this waiver, if it don't mean nothing? If they do something wrong, I'm still suing. That doesn't make any sense to me to have this thing going on. And plus the fact I've been out there in that Civic Center now, probably ever since it's been there. This waiver has never been there. It never come up until I asked a question or stated my feelings about what happened to the pickleball court. Lo and behold, up popped this waiver saying I can't play no more. Now that don't make any sense to me there. Now, any of these people that have signed this waiver is just giving away their rights for any kind of thing. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a judge. We got lots of judges here tonight that would probably say that this thing, I guess I should have asked them, so I can't say no more about it. But anyhow, I am really unhappy with this going on. All of this cold weather, this rainy weather, this messy weather, and I can't go out there and play because I won't sign this dadgum waiver. I'm paying taxes now. If you say if y'all can rule me out of paying taxes, I'll stop going out there. You know, and probably with a lot of these other people. Now, I don't know whether you're holding the clock on me or not. I tried to look over that. But I could stand up here and talk all night because I'm unhappy about this. I can't get anybody to have a meeting with me, you know, so they can explain, and maybe the county attorney can explain to me, but I can't go to him. You know, explain to me why this is okay. It is really okay for the county because it absolves them of any liability whatsoever. So why don't we just do away with the liability insurance out there because they don't need it because everybody's going to sign the waiver. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Selden. Okay, next, Mr. Sattler.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, council members. I just want to read what you said about the being tired this morning, being up late last night with the Dogs win. Even if you're not a dog fan, you should be a Trayvon Walker fan. He was one of our own from our county, so I think for him and for everybody that played last night, it was a wonderful game. I will have to step out. I do apologize. We'll have to step out if I get done speaking because of my meetings tonight. But I guess I want to comment and voice some not very concerns, just kind of wonder where we're at as far as with the meeting warehouses. There was one tonight. And of course, we had a planning board last night that I attended because the one last night is directly impacting my property. I came before y'all before about that. That is a residential property. And doing some research and an ordinance and what we have on the book so far, it's very little pertaining to warehouses right now because I think this is the first one maybe in the last decade that's been approved. So I think as a board, we maybe need to look at standards for this particular area. Setbacks, buffers, because last night there was some discussion back and forth, good discussion I think as far as buffers and setbacks as far as from my standpoint, from the residential standpoint, and from the person that's going to do the commercial. You know, that way the commercial person knows what is expected of them. Right now it's kind of a gray area. I think it's left to this particular commissioner board to kind of decide on that, which is fine. I have no problem with that. But if there's standards in place, I think it lessens the burden out a little bit, and on the planning board, and gives them a little bit of a starting point of where we need to go. Right now, the minimum standard for fencing is 6 foot. It has to have some type of screening with it too, or you can do a natural vegetation. Well, is that natural vegetation part of the buffer, or is it part of the setback? How far is the setback? Is it 15, 20, 25 feet? Is it 35 feet in the rear? There's a lot of variables there, and there's a lot of unknowns. And I know there's maybe a gateway ordinance that I heard about last night, the first time I heard about it. I don't think it's up yet for review, public review, but if those particular type of situations are in that particular ordinance, I would strongly urge y'all to kind of put that on the front burner because we have this one coming up possibly in the next few months. And tonight, as Mr. Judge talked about, we may have one coming up too. So this is something that I think the county is going to have to kind of get a handle on as far as standards, especially if it's on our corridors, 19, 36, 74. These are the gateways into our community. We want the community to look good. We want to make sure that the commercial buildings that we have fit the aesthetic appeal of where that's going. And again, when mine comes up, as far as how it directly impacts me, we'll discuss that. But I would like, if we could, start having some standards put in place, for the residential part and commercial part, because when you start having these, you will have the issue, and you probably had before with the commercial and residential together joining, and that's my situation that I will be facing in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. No other public comments. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. On the consent tonight, we have the approval of the December 14th regular meeting minutes, the approval of the December 20th special call meeting minutes, the acceptance of the executed EMS agreement, the acceptance of an agreement with Upson County, the tax commissioner, and the city of Thomaston, approval of updated IT intergovernmental agreement with the City of Thomaston, and the approval of an amendment to the Upson County real estate property surplus list. Is there a motion on the consent?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the consent. Jason?
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes, thank you. Okay, new business. As always, first meeting of the year, very important task of the appointment of the vice chair for this commission. At this time, I'll open up for a motion for appointment of vice chair.
I think it's Mr. Ellington's time.
Do I have a motion for, is there a second?
Second.
A motion made and seconded to appoint Commissioner James Ellington as the vice chair. Any discussion? Hearing none. Jason?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington?
Abstain for obvious reasons.
Vote.
Chairman Allen?
Yes. Thank you for your willingness.
Thank you for asking.
Your time in the barrel. All right, item H, approval of resolution 01 TAC 2022 supporting reform to the Georgia's annexation dispute resolution law. And this pretty much is, from time to time, our professional organization, based on the priorities of all the county commissions throughout the state, attempt to speak with one voice as much as possible. And this is another one of those cases where we're looking to get us to garner support for one of the priorities. Did I say that appropriately?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, so essentially, and we don't currently have issues with annexation disputes or the need to resolve them, obviously, but at some point we may. But really all this resolution is saying is that we support the findings of the 2021 House Study Committee on Annexation and to implement and adopt those reforms as they recommended via legislation in the 2022 legislative session. So it's basically this board sending their support for implementing those recommendations from last year's study committee. I want to say that about 40 of our sister counties have adopted this resolution, and it's largely this is largely an issue that faces more urban counties. So, but with that being said, it's certainly something that we would recommend the board consider supporting.
Is there a does the board feel like there's a need for me to read this whole thing, or can I just summarize by the therefore now it be resolved?
You can do that.
Okay, these changes should be to revise the procedures of the annexation dispute resolution process, empower the Department of Community Affairs to administer this process more effectively, and to better balance the oftentimes conflicting interests among counties, cities, and incorporated and unincorporated citizens and developers seeking different land uses through annexation. As only state law can help to reach this balance, state law must be changed to respect all parties and persons impacted by Georgia's continued population growth. You have a recommendation for staff for us to adopt this resolution. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Jason?
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes. Thank you. All right. Here's another fun one here. Discussion of the 2022 Elmec project. We're talking road paving here, so something.
So, Mr. Chairman, our submission for the Elmec grant is due February 1. And I know and understand that pretty much every member of the board is engaging staff on what potential projects would be and what size of a project we should. So normally, and as you'll see on a couple of other items towards the end of the agenda, this would be something that we would do during the work session. But considering the timing of this, with February 1 being the submission deadline, we just wanted to at least begin the discussion publicly. as I know we've been having individually, and I've been having with our engineering staff, and a little bit with our finance staff about available financing, because roughly we're looking at the Elmec portion of any project we're doing being $735,000, but we're not necessarily limited to putting a project together of that scope. It could potentially be larger. So I've asked today for our county engineer to attend and our road superintendent to attend if the board has any questions. I think we also circulated what potentially may have been an updated list from our engineering staff about the projects we've done to date. Phase 1 T-SPLOST, Phase 2 T-SPLOST, and then 19, 20, and 21 Elmec. So we've done a lot of paving in the last few years, roughly 100 miles. So this eventually will lead into a discussion when we're able to schedule a retreat about doing a complete and total reevaluation of our transportation infrastructure. So, but before we can bite off that big piece of the apple, we need to get a submission in for Elmec, and unfortunately the timing just doesn't coincide. So with that, I would open it up to any questions or recommendations of concentration for the staff.
Our focus then for tonight's purpose is to identify enough of a project so that we can submit that Elmec, because we won't have any other time to do it unless we have a special call meeting or something like that to address it specifically.
Right.
So I know, Mr. Melton and I talked, and Chris and I talked, and I think we've all talked amongst ourselves. So
got my list right here.
Marshall, the vice chair.
That's your Elmec or that?
So, Mr. Melton, I'm gonna pitch the ball to you back there. You and I spoke last week, and I kind of gave you a heads up that this would be coming, and we talked about a few roads. You're our road superintendent, so I'm asking you got to come up with potentially, Chris, about 6 miles of roads.
Yes, sir.
Using our assessment, and I know you used to. You got the one that was done years and years, not years and years, but years ago, and the one that was done probably 4 years ago. I personally want to hear from you. If you got 6 miles of roads, what would it be?
Well, one of them would be Hawk Road, which was bought back because of the construction on 19, but it needs to be done this year. Another one that I had suggested is North Delray, because that's a cut through for a lot of people who live out, and it's in horrible shape. And it's got to be resurfaced. It resurfaced in 04, like 04, 05. But also, they have mentioned Rest Haven. Rest Haven it's got good and bad. Chris looked at it. But the problem with Rest Haven is trucks. It's a no-through truck road, but they own it every day, and it's only about a 20-year-old road. And it's deteriorated to the point.
Only 20 years old?
Just a little over 20. It's probably done in 03,
Yeah.
Should have lasted longer than that.
Yeah.
The weight factor is what beat it out. But there again, Rest Haven is 4.46 miles. That's 4.5 miles. The road there, they have to be resurfaced. North Delray is about 1.5 miles. It's 1.58 miles. And Hart Road is a little over a half mile. Not much. And if you go by the front of this priority list, you got Selma and Lincoln Park to be picked up, which is not a whole lot of mileage. It won't be but about, roughly 3/4 of a mile. You get 4 roads down there. So, Thurston School's been mentioned. Thurston School from 74 to Squirrel Bluff Road, terrible shape. That's where Turk Creek Pork Skins is and all that, coming all to pieces. That and South Old Alabama, which is in Sunset Village, which is from Pickard to 74. It's bad. And Yeah, it's just, if you're gonna do North Delray, I think you need to do Jugtown. Jugtown is a road that's still surface treatment, which tells you how old it is. But it's 2.13 miles. So, you know, it's just something that, off the top of my head, it's bad shape. And Country Village, which is not a very long road, we got East Poplar. And it's a little less than a quarter of a mile. We're constantly patching on it. But you're only doing just one road in a subdivision that's, you know, there's probably 10 roads in it. But that one is the entrance, one of the entrances into Country Village. We constantly have to patch. Clay Street's another one we have to patch. And Clay Street was brought up last year. Still surface treatment road, tells you how old it is. So, and it's not, it's a little less than a quarter mile, Clay Street, so.
How long was Thurston School Road?
Thurston School Road from 74 Squirrel Bluff is 1.62 miles. So it's a little over a mile and a half. Chris, what's your, I mean, I know you looked at.
Yes, sir. Well, just to kind of recap what the county manager said, we've been blessed in the past 2 years that we basically flipped 43 roads from very poor, fair, to excellent condition, and I commend the commissioners for their support in getting this done. With that being said, and talking with the roadway superintendent, I do think that North Delray is a good candidate, as well as Hart Road. I think that will serve the community very well. Rest Haven, you know, it would remind me of a log town or Po Biddy with the amount of traffic and the trucks that we're seeing. You know, we do have a methodology to solve the problems, and both of those roads are holding up well. They tend to be a little more expensive with the amount of patching that we have to do, but I do think that that would be a good candidate as well. What we've tried to do in the past is select the collector and then fan off of the collector and try to catch some of these side roads. And I believe from the community standpoint, that's been well received. And I think that's what Mr. James were talking about as we go through like North Delray and catch some of these side roads. I think that would be beneficial for everybody while we're in there to get, you know, really the mobilization is getting the equipment out there. The least disruption is to tackle as many as we possibly can. And some of these spurs is where you're catching some of your residents at and providing aid to them.
Well, you know, some of that, you know, these secondary parts of these major things, you know, is we can cover with T-Splosh too. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we just need to set our Elmec and then T-Splosh to take care of the feeders.
When with us doing so many roads here over the past couple of years, I know we're going to talk about it in a work session or a retreat, but I do want to come up with a plan to update this list as soon as possible, because I mean, I guarantee you some of these poor or fair roads are now jumped up to that very poor. So I would like to see us do that here shortly.
So the rest Haven was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, on the original assessment, which was done in 07, it was way down the list, but now, look how horrible it is now. You know, basically a 20-year period. Yeah. And it's bad.
And I think there's some on this list here. I think there's some of these roads up here have been done. I mean, like Woodall Road,
yeah.
Sandy Harvey,
yeah.
A couple of these. So they were done before
prior
to y'all. So
we
do
marked
it.
The ones we covered in the past 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, so if you look at the list here, I mean, there's some other bad ones on here. I mean, Liberty Chapel, Gray's Chapel, and then, like I said, some of the roads in the park. So if we did Hart Road and North Delray, that's 2 miles. There's at least 4 more miles. Now, if we identify a road and we come back later and change that, what's the process to change it? I mean, as long as we, or,
Yeah, so what staff would just need by February or by the next meeting, I think at the latest, would be what we would just submit for the Elmec portion. We would still have plenty of time, including the time at either our next work session or during our retreat, to cover the rest of the program. But it would be helpful, as I know the commissioners probably each have other roads that they want staff to look into in more depth. I think maybe just getting those from this meeting, we can go ahead and start to work on the large program based on your input as well. You've heard the input from staff. I know that the commissioners have projects that you want us to look at that we didn't mention. So,
Got a whole list of them.
yep.
But the good ones that James just said are all in my district.
Well, these all
They're all in the county. They're all in the county.
They're all in the county.
Well, I just got a question, I guess, for James. I get lots of calls about old Alabama. That road's terrible. Well, we looked at doing a couple different things, and it just never really come together with some contractors gonna do some stuff out of there. Is there a road, is any of these roads we just discussed, and I'm not aware of it, that is worse than that road?
No, I'd say no.
It's practically gonna be dirt if we don't do something to it.
You looked at it, didn't you, Chris?
Yes, sir, I looked at it
It's
today.
got a lot of alligators.
right.
How long is Old Alabama, that portion we're talking about?
It is 0.92 miles, and we're talking,
A mile.
yeah, from the stop sign at Sunnyside to 74. It actually goes to Pickard.
Right, but it's been paid.
Yes, if you do that, it's going to look bad. It needs to be stopped at the stop sign.
Right.
So I know Old Alabama and Thurston School, I know they're near and dear to your heart. Without even looking at your list, I know it's just stuff.
Clay Street, Thurston, just so there's no confusion, and Old Alabama. Clay, Thurston. Thurston is pretty bad. One section of Thurston was paved on the north
Yeah.
east side of 74, but from the section that runs over to Old Alabama, it's and we got an industry out there on that road also.
So that's about 3 miles roughly, right there. I mean,
It's Thurston 1.62, so. And then
what you got, man?
I would say let's go to Lincoln Park and stay at that.
Yeah, I know
First
there's
five
some
on the
small
list of
roads
yours.
down there.
Yeah.
So you're looking specifically, looking at the front of the list here. You got Lincoln Park Circle.
Lincoln Park Circle is not ours, I don't believe.
That, yeah, we talked about that the other day, James. Which ones would you recommend down there if you were to go down there that are on the front of the list here?
What's on front of the list right here is Man Street, Miller Street, Clark Drive, and Clark Drive. There's 2 Clark Drive, which is the intersection.
What was the last two? Clark Drive and Clark Street?
Drive. Well, one of them, we call it street, but it is probably just called a drive.
16 and 36.
16 and 36? What does that come up for miles?
I ain't got them,
Ballpark.
Man Street is 0.19, Miller Street 0.18, Clark Drive 0.17, and the short Clark Drive, which is 0.05, which you're only talking roughly right at 3/4 of a mile, somewhere, a little less.
Yeah, 1.5, 2 miles will cover several streets in Lincoln Park.
Yeah.
We know John B. Gordon.
Yeah, that's
We don't.
a whole.
They got expensive.
It got very expensive.
For only a few people that would get the benefit of
That's
it.
exactly right.
Just in the future, the road we're gonna have to do, and it don't have to be done, is Tile Lane and all that over there. That subdivision is going to have to be.
Which one was that?
Tyler Lane and all, you know.
Logan's Land.
Logan's
Okay, yeah.
Logan's Land is,
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking 90 houses they just built in there.
Yeah.
There's over 100 houses in there. It's bad.
I have a quick
Okay.
question for Chris. On this that we got today, Mulberry Road is listed as number 10, but that's on the Elmec from, it says project let date was 2019. Was that?
Yeah, everything highlighted in a different color is one that we've taken off, moved it to excellent condition. So
Okay.
if you count up everything that's shaded, that would be the 43 that I alluded to originally. So we didn't move, we haven't, since this is kind of the starting point that we haven't rolled those to excellent condition because we didn't want to change the integrity of this original report for the team. We just highlighted what we've kind of knocked off. So if we get the opportunity to do the new assessment, then they would rank at the excellent condition, and then we would reevaluate everything else. But I do agree, like what Mr. James said. I think that you'll find in that probably some of those in that fair range, due to the traffic and the use, has deteriorated very quickly since this report was done. And might bring some awareness. Unfortunately, we're not riding the roads every day like many of the constituents are, so they're bringing it to our attention. But I think we may find some sense of urgency that we may not be aware of once we do the new assessment.
And that Mulberry Road is in James's district, which is in the far western part of the town. You have Mulberry Road in your district too, but that's not it.
I'll take it.
All in Upson County. Okay, so gentlemen, so Harp Road, I'm just throwing this out there, trying to take notes as we're doing this. Harp Road, North Delray, the 4 streets that we mentioned down in the park. Let's see, so that's a 1.5 miles. That's about 2.25 miles roughly. If we did those, so that leaves, 2.75 miles roughly to do. So if we threw Thurston School, that's 2.6, and then Clay and Old Alabama, I mean, that's over 6 miles of roads. I mean, we're okay to go over. I mean, is that, I mean, again, this is just for our Elmec. So once we get to Elmec, obviously, and we start doing an RFP and bidding this out, we see what the price is going to be and where we're at with our T-Splosh collections fund balance. We can obviously see what more we can do. It may be that the economy just doesn't support that we do it, depending on the price of asphalt this year. And I'm assuming that we're talking asphalt for all these roads. Okay. What do y'all think about that?
I'm good with it.
I got 2 head nods, 3 head nods.
Good.
4 head nods. Okay, so to just recapture,
I've actually
you got
it
Hart,
all.
North Delray, Clark Street, Clark Drive, Miller, Mann, North Old Alabama, Clay, and Thurston School Road. Okay, so you need us to.
So what I'll just have the application filled out and ready on your next agenda for approval.
Okay.
Based on the input.
Okay. We good? All right. When it works.
Need a motion on that or anything?
No, we're just gonna, we'll vote on it at our, probably just put it on our consent for the next one and move forward with it, so. Great. Man, that was easy. We need to do this more often like this. That was the easiest road paving discussion there.
No, that was just the Elmec. Just a T-Splosh.
Yeah. All right, next. And we're getting there. Discussion and repairs on the covered bridge.
So, Mr. Chairman, again, this would normally be a workshop item, so it's just the opportunity for staff to kind of let you know where we are. This was actually one of the projects that I had initially talked to our interim manager during our transition a few years ago, and I think for all the right reasons made its way to the back burner to some extent because we had a lot of more pressing issues to deal with. But over those 3 years, obviously the facility there hasn't gotten any better, and it's now to the point where it's in need of attention and repair. So we have some detailed information that we'd like to share with you. We also included a little bit of analysis and pictures in your packet. And in addition, Commissioner Wilder did a site visit with myself and our facilities director, so he has some, well, he obviously has some firsthand knowledge because he also handles our graffiti removal at that site. But if I could, Mr. Chairman, I've got our facilities director and our CFO that are both here, and they have some information to share about potential costs for materials and also some investigation we've done on labor to get the job done and about what we believe the project needs and what the cost would be. So if the chair would allow, I would introduce Alan first and then potentially Phil.
In the narrative write-up that you all have, the estimated cost that we have right now of the total repairs is estimated $88,000. The maximum materials cost between $42 and $36. You can look at the second page of that analysis, and Phil can explain to you more of the details. The reason we're not coming to you with a proposals for the actual labor, we have put out some requests for quotes, I should say, versus proposals. We've been working with one of the local contractors on the quotes. We weren't ready to present the whole thing to you. We wanted to make sure that everything was there and the local contractors had the right insurance to do the work as needed, as we would require. So we just couldn't get all that ready to submit to you. The pressing matter is the materials, and that's what Phil can speak to more, but essentially you're talking about, we have got 3 quotes on materials. We'd really like to use cypress because it's going to last a lot longer than pine. There is a company that has the cypress materials, and he's holding this. It's not indefinitely, Phil can speak more to that, but he's holding some of the materials for us. And given the volatility in pricing for lumber, we want to just at least get this to you so we can move forward and get the materials purchased. And then we can come back and say, okay, here's the contracting firm we'd like to recommend to do the repairs. So don't like to do it that way, but it's just the way it worked out. And we're sort of in unusual times with building materials and everything else really in terms of pricing. But Phil can speak to this.
And Alan, the total estimated cost, I think we had it $88,000 total. So you're looking at materials costs of anywhere between $30,000 and $35,000 depending on.
Well, the materials cost would be $41,584
right.
If we go with cypress, $36,444 if we use pine.
So is the labor cost is the only issue just strictly insurance related? And are there multiple bids?
Right, we want them to have, they wouldn't have any problem providing a certificate of insurance for general liability. It's the workman's comp insurance. And they were trying to arrange something whereby they could utilize personnel resources from someone else that would be covered. But in many cases for small contractors, companies that employ a handful of people, the cost it would to get a year's worth of workers' compensation insurance would be make bidding on something like this. Sort of. We'd take big risk if we were to hire them. If something happened, we could be sued.
I got a question. A couple of us scratch our head on this. I hear the argument about securing the material.
Okay. There you go.
Securing the material, but we haven't secured someone to do it, and it seems like we're not following our own procurement procedures that we have adopted.
I don't.
Why?
Oh.
Why wouldn't we just put it as one big package and put it out there? I mean, it sounds like you're spending a lot of time dealing with somebody who you know, you're trying to wait for them to get workers' comp. I don't
I can
understand.
address part of that, and I'll let, because
I
it's.
mean, like us going out here and buying the metal for the courthouse roof from somebody with the hope that we get somebody else to do. Why are we doing this piecemeal? I don't understand.
I'll address it just a little bit, and I'll let the county manager and Phil, because a lot of this discussion has been ongoing for quite some time. So, you know, under our procurement policy, we have a number of different methods for competitive solicitations. Requesting quotes is one. There's no bright line rule on how we go about it. It was really the urgency to get the materials, which I know Phil has been harping about for months, that we better get those materials locked down, found, acquired, before we even reached out to a contract, right? Now, I don't know if I'm getting this correct in all things, but I know that Phil did a lot of the legwork on this. I'm really just preparing it in the package and presenting to you.
So my question then, Phil,
Yeah.
why would we not just bid this out at one time? Material, labor, one price, be done. Why would we not just do that now?
Well, like you said, we're trying to get the material locked in because we were working to try to get a local guy the job, not give it to him, but help a local person. And it was like $20,000 cheaper.
Mr. Chairman, I think I can add some clarity here. So the GC for this project would be sitting in the back room. So the whole reason of working with, so the general contractor would be us. We would just be hiring additional labor to work with Phil. They would be working under his direction. So the other component about this material has to be custom cut to match what's on there, and it takes them a long time. So they have to source the material, and then I would let Phil explain it from there. But it's once we get it on order, it's going to take them some time to get it to us.
Well, that answers my question.
And there's only a few folks in the region that can even do the work. So Phil spent a few weeks reaching out to folks that still operate sawmills that are capable of even producing that material.
That answers the question. I mean, I didn't know that this was going to be an in-house project that we were going to sub out. That I understand now. Does anybody else have any questions?
Are we gonna build it back historically,
Yes, sir.
without screws and everything else?
Gonna be, no,
Then that ain't historic.
it's gonna have to have some screws in it. There's still a lot of wood pegs.
Because the nails, the south side of the building would absorb all the sun, most of the sun. The nails, if you walk by and look at it, the nails begin to, the board has been drawing the nails out. It won't do that with screws. And the south side of the building is the one that really needs to be replaced, because the north side of it, the tree, it does get in the sunshine, so it's in real good shape. And the top is another serious condition too.
So does this include doing the roof?
It does. Yeah.
Just the material.
We're planning on using,
Two sides
we're
roof.
gonna use cypress on the roof too.
So you're asking for us to authorize an amount up to, what was it, 42,000, not to exceed 42,000 for the procurement of material? Is that,
Cypress, 36,684.
what was that?
If we went with pine, it'd be 31,444.
Currently it's pine, right? It's currently pine.
I think it's currently, yeah. And based on what I understand, and if I'm talking with the builder that was down there, looking at the cypress is got a lot longer life expectancy.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So what are you asking for? $38,953, is that the one I'm reading right?
Not to exceed 42.
I had 36,684.
Mr. Chairman, I got a question.
Unless you had that extra five,
Yes, sir.
This is a historic site, correct, on the National Registry. are we gonna be in any type of violation when we start changing materials? Does anybody besides us have to prove a design?
We did actually pose that to our archives director who did the research for us, and we wouldn't be in danger of losing the designation by changing the materials. Now, we will say that it's going to a different material. It's not a material that they would have been able to source when the bridge was originally constructed, but it would not be in danger of losing its designation because of the change. Now, if it was under some kind of grant program at some point in time where we had received dollars for it, I think we would have to maintain it.
Have we ever received funding, grant funding, for any repairs because it was washed away, it was rebuilt? I guess what I'm saying, is there any repercussions out there in the weeds that we go spend this material, we start doing this work, somebody from the state shows up and goes, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah, we're not in danger of losing our designation, yeah.
You sure?
Yes.
So you're asking for $36,684?
No, that's $41,684.
5,000 is miscellaneous supplies, temporary dumpsters, nails, screws, bolts.
41684.
41684.
And then how long is it gonna take to get a contract with insurance?
Not long. We have one, but I was giving the other lowest bidder, local person, time to see what they could arrange. I've not heard back. So.
So the labor cost on this is going to be roughly?
It would be the difference. It's another $42,000 or $3,000 approximately.
So how do we, using our process, allow everybody an opportunity to bid on this?
Well,
work? I mean, we're subbing it out. I mean, we're going to get ourselves in a sling here by picking a sub. I mean, what process are we using to pick the sub?
Well, this is the sub. That's your GC, Filzer GC, the company we have that is insured that is going to provide the labor will be. I did not present them yet because.
And how many bids did you get?
3.
So when are you going to present that? Because you'll have to approve that separately, right?
Next formal meeting, I suppose. Right?
So right now we're just buying material. That's requesting to buy material to get the material on order.
It's gonna take 4 to 6 weeks for him to produce the material anyway.
Okay.
Oh, some of it's got.
But waiting 2 weeks with that, I mean, is that going to really kill the schedule? I mean, I just would like to see all this at once.
He told me they had the product, but people are begging for it. And he said, I don't know how long I can hold it. Because he came down to the site and viewed it with Jason and I and Lorenzo. And he's trying to help us out and keep that cypress. Because he said once it's gone, he didn't know when it comes anymore. But as far as the treated lumber on the landings and the handrails and stuff, he's got to cut it, dry it, and then ship it off to be farm treated, which is a better treatment, pressure treated, and then it comes back to him and then he dries it again. So you're looking at 4 weeks on just that material, getting it ready to go.
So, yeah, staff recommendation.
If we let the cypress slip through our fingers now, we're gonna have to go back with pine, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Be the only other option.
Any other questions, or is there?
I'd like to, I know we need the material, and I guess we need to do what we need to do, but I sure would like to see the scope of work. We're replacing one side, both sides, what are we doing?
It's one side and 2 ends and the roof.
It's what?
South side of the bridge, both gable ends would drive through.
So one side will be pine, and the other one will be cypress.
The only pine left will be the north side. Up the creek. facing the woods. You won't see it from the road. And actually, the cypress will dry out and weather to be pretty much the same color. It's gonna gray up. But if you put pine on it, it's just gonna be bright yellow.
Well, depending on how we vote, I guess, I mean, could we not ask the lumber company if they could hold it for 2 more weeks? And if they do give us the nod to say yes, then we could have it come before us before you purchase it all at once. I mean, even though, I don't know how we're gonna vote, but if we say yes for this, if you can't hold it, then that gives you the leverage to move forward with it.
Well, I thought we had two, we got 2 bids here on cypress.
All right, the other
Boston Wood Products.
Carly Smith, up in Sonoya, was the only other wood yard that could furnish it. And he said he had 10 boards in stock. So that didn't do us any good. He said he probably could get some more in 6 months. But he went ahead and quoted it, just so we could have a comparison. And the other quote I got was, anything comparable was cedar siding. We went back with all cedar, but just the material alone was $50,000 to do cedar, compared to 36 on some project.
Gentlemen, what do you want to do? Need a motion to.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for the material, but I'd first like to ask if they can hold it for 2 more weeks so we could get it all at one time in our next meeting.
Hold the material.
I mean, at least ask the question. And if you can't hold it.
They need to hold the material until we're ready for it anyway.
So you're gonna go get the pick of material up, bring it back, store it somewhere, or is it gonna be stored on site until we're ready for it?
No, I was planning on storing it in the road department and just taking what we need.
He just left, did you?
Yeah, day by day. Because if we lay all that lumber down there, it'd be gone.
Okay, so your motion is to approve the $41,684.
Yeah, but first ask the question if he can hold it for 2 weeks so we can get it presented
Under the condition that he'll hold it for 2 more weeks?
Mm-hmm. And then if they say no, absolutely not, then we approve
If he's
it.
gonna get the deal, I don't see why he wouldn't hold it for 2 weeks before we place the order.
Yeah.
I have a question. Are you, would be making a motion to authorize us to do a procurement to basically create a purchase order?
Yeah,
If he says he can't hold it, if he says he can, don't do it.
That would be my suggestion.
That's his motion, that's up to him. So his motion is $41,684, as long as he'll hold it for 2 weeks, with the assumption that 2 weeks from now, we're gonna come back here and talk about
The whole project.
obligating funding for the labor part of this. How are we paying for this? Splosh?
Can I ask the question?
Yes.
Phil, I mean, how long is this building gonna stand up there without falling apart? Right now?
The structure's good for years and years.
So,
The frame is there. Nothing wrong with it.
Right, so I just go back to the point where I would personally like to see it all together. I mean,
Well,
get the cart before the horse, buy materials. It don't work out with that contractor, gotta pay another contractor, gotta bid on the price for it.
well, let me do this. Right now, I got a motion on the table. I gotta ask, is there a second on the motion? There's no second on that. So is there another motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we get, we package this together, and then have it presented to us at our next meeting and vote on it as a package.
Okay, I have a motion to, well, let me phrase it. So so I guess basically you're asking to
Package
table
labor
it.
and material.
We'll table this for 2 weeks and come back with a combined product.
Yes. Table. We come back.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to table for 2 weeks. Come back with one consolidated project. And any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes. Hey, I know this is it's complicated, and I appreciate everything you're trying to do, but I hope you understand where, you know, the concerns. All right, next is the review and acceptance of the conditions assessment and maintenance plan for the Andrews Chapel School. Do we want to dial in?
So, yes, Mr. Chairman, if it would be okay, we want to get,
Judges, we really appreciate your patience. We got, y'all are here, you, local county government at work.
Like being in the courtroom.
Potholes, bridges.
This is Ben Sutton from the
Ben Sutton.
Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation.
So this is,
And when we get him on, you would just ask him if he has any overall comments about his report. Maybe cover a little bit about the meeting we had.
This is Ben.
Mr. Sutton, this is Jason Tinsley calling from the Board of Commissioners meeting in Upson County. How are you?
Hello.
Mr. Sutton?
Yes, good
Hi.
to be with y'all.
This is Jason Tinsley. I'm going to turn you over to Chairman Allen. You're live in our commission meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
hey, Mr. Sutton, appreciate you joining us for this. So basically tonight, what we wanted to do was to have a discussion and to review and consider for acceptance the conditions and assessment and maintenance plan that you guys were gracious enough to do for us for the Andrews Chapel School. So do you want to, so we've got the binder here. Does somebody want to kind of summarize what the findings of this assessment were?
I'd be happy to. It's relatively straightforward. You know, given your, I happen to be watching the meeting, so given your previous discussion, I will point out that given the unknown timeline for any of this work to get done, we did not include any specific bids, but we intend this report to be a roadmap for long-term preservation of the structure and the site. And we did try as best we could to prioritize interventions that should be done and in the order that they should be done so that the county has a sense of where to spend their dollars first. But the general overview is that the building is in fair condition from a preservation perspective, although it is at a point where there will need to be some pretty specific interventions in the near term to make sure that preservation of the site long term doesn't become even more costly. Primarily the roof and the trees around the building are the biggest concern that we saw. There are some issues obviously with the foundation, but we didn't necessarily, anecdotally, we were told the building has been in that shape from the foundation for quite some time. And I would agree that it's not a critical need, but it would be more of an intermediate intervention. And then just always making sure that you've got a buttoned up and secured exterior of the building is going to buy you a lot of time for longer term plans and continued preservation of the site.
Okay.
So what we did, we broke in, gave those prioritized interventions, but we also went into detail with all specific portions of the building on the exterior and the interior. And I would simply say, it's a pretty remarkable resource to still have, and I'm happy that the county has shown its commitment to its preservation by taking ownership of it a handful of years ago. And at this point, until and unless some substantial usage plans are developed, I would just encourage the county to keep an eye on the building and maintain it, make it a part of the cyclical maintenance of other buildings and facilities that the county owns, with a plan for some of those immediate interventions whenever possible.
Mr. Chairman, you'll see a summary of the immediate interventions on page 25 under where the beginning of the maintenance plan begins.
Okay, so just to,
that's correct.
So you just want to highlight what those are. We know roof and removal or doing something with the tree.
Yep. The flooring, the addition in the back of the building has been damaged by water and termites. So if anybody was going to be in there using that portion of the building, you certainly want to make sure that that was repaired appropriately. And then exterior siding and paint should certainly be higher up there. In terms of larger interventions like the foundation, like I said, if you get a roof on there and button up the exterior, you bought a lot of time before you do some work that might be more intensive, or may also be outside of a typical budget, like a window restoration or something like that. But certainly those immediate interventions should be worked into the county budget as best as possible, so that you're not having a conversation about a school building that needs a full roof reconstruction as opposed to just a reshingling.
Good question. So next steps, would it be to potentially take these, maybe immediate interventions and put it out for a procurement process to get some pricing on it, or what would be the next steps needed?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So our intent here is to, again, provide a roadmap for y'all, not knowing your budget, not knowing timelines, but to give you sort of, this needs to be done now, this should be done next, first, second, third. So I would certainly encourage you to try to address the roof sooner rather than later. And to a point in your earlier discussion about eligibility for National Register, this property is not listed currently in the National Register, but I certainly would argue that it is eligible. And so the intent of all of our interventions here would be to preserve that eligibility, so that if and when someone wants to nominate it, it will have that historic status.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Ben, if we follow this roadmap, as you call it, the immediate and intermediate interventions, as you prescribed, are we going to maintain that eligibility for that designation? Because just specifically, one of the questions you have, one of the things you point out is potentially converting it to a metal roof. If that was not the original roof, how does that affect its eligibility under its historical status?
Well, when you get into specifics of design and material, you can really get into the weeds. I think what we tried to do is balance the cost-effective longevity and still balance that with the appropriateness. So if a building is historic, you want to try to replace any materials in kind. There is some leeway, particularly around roofing materials, and quite frankly, putting a wood shingled roof back on the building would be fantastic. It would be very high level preservation. It would also probably not be cost effective and would probably create some further maintenance issues for the county. So typically in situations like that, it should not be, it would not be put that eligibility at risk if you were to put an architectural shingle on there. You can always check with us and with the State Historic Preservation Office to see if, once you have a project spec, to see if it's the appropriate material. Given the choice between the two, I would not choose a metal roof, but obviously that's going to buy you a much longer time frame for lifespan of the roof. But an architectural shingle that is not 3-tab, that's high quality, the idea is that it replicates the look of a wood shingle roof, but gives you the advantages of more modern materials. And you could always argue that roofing material is reversible, which is another sort of tenet of historic preservation.
Okay. Well, we really appreciate your time in putting this assessment together and pretty much giving us a roadmap here. So for us tonight, it's that's pretty much it. We need to know. I'm going to speak for the board here. That we need to know, obviously, the roof, and we've been talking about the roof at this place for
a couple of years.
Yeah, a while. I mean, I don't need to be a contractor to go out there and see the roof needs to be done, just to what the extent is. So I guess something for our next work session, or a work session in the very near future. But you might want to go ahead and start Phil leave. Yeah. Coming up with a general idea, because if this was my house and I was looking at this, I'd be cringing right now at the price tag that I'm going to be looking at, and I'm sitting here trying to figure out how we're going to pay for it and what other funding sources are out there. So I know we'll have a lot more discussion about this, but
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I would like to add that when Mr. Sutton did mention, that he didn't know what our budget was for it, well, there isn't one. So
we don't know either. We don't know either. I know we do appreciate what we have there, but so roof, take care of the tree, button up the exterior, making sure it's dry. We don't have a termite problem out there now, do we?
There was evidence of earlier infestations, but I did not see anything active. Okay. Although I did see some anthills in and around. But no, I recommend that to anybody that owns a building made out of wood in the state of Georgia.
Yes. Yes. Okay. All right. Anything else we need?
No, Mr. Chairman, I would just ask, does the board want to discuss it more, or would the board like for staff to come back with a procurement plan with estimates? Because obviously we've got estimates on the roof. They're probably not good anymore, so we would have to go back out. So would the board want to see basically what a program would look like for all the what they term immediate interventions, which would be items 1 through 4 on page 25? Or is this something we need to discuss further?
Looking at you guys for your opinion.
My opinion is, go ahead and, at least let us know what it's going to cost.
And break it down per item.
Yeah.
Make sure it's not lump sum.
Okay. Did I answer your question?
Yes. Thank you.
Great. All right, Mr. Sutton. Well, thank you for your time this evening.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Appreciate you. All right. Moving along, discussion and approval of resolution 02-2022, increase of local supplement for Superior Court judges for the Griffin Judicial Circuit. Jason, I'll tee it up, you know, how we got here to this.
So, Mr. Chairman, a few weeks before the Christmas holiday, the representatives from our judicial circuit reached out to us and presented the board with a plan, a compensation plan that they wanted you to consider. The details of that are in your packet. What I can summarize for you that potentially is not in your packet, what the Upson County impact to the changes would be, and since we have the representatives from the circuit here, I'm sure the board would want to hear from them directly, but in teeing it up for them, what they're proposing would have an annual impact to Upson County of $12,655 annually. The way they're presenting it, that the first 6 months, once enacted, would actually be paid from existing fund balance. So essentially our obligation, if the resolutions are approved for 2022, would be $6,327.50. So what they are proposing is to actually pay for the first 6 months of the change to the compensation plan from fund balance, and then beginning July 1, we would begin to pick up that as a regular expense as our share of the circuit.
Right.
And with that, I would encourage the chair to hear from the representatives that are here.
Yeah, and I guess to kind of expedite and kind of consolidate, you know, the next item on our agenda is the discussion and approval of resolution to increase the compensation for each of the positions funded by the Griffin Judicial Circuit. We've got it broken down in two, but pretty much it's we might as well so Judge Sams, if you'd like to say a few words, or if you want to pass the baton to Mr. Simmons, that'd be great.
Thank you. Is it okay if I stand here?
That'd be ideal if you did.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Jason, for teeing it up for us and for all my many emails.
Actually, it would probably be better if you came a little bit closer,
All
because
right.
that way we got you on camera.
Yes, sir. Okay,
There
great.
you go.
And so again, my name is Will Simmons. I'm the District Court Administrator for tonight. That simply means I'm responsible for fiscal affairs for Superior and Juvenile Courts for the Griffin Judicial Circuit, which obviously, as you all know, comprises 4 counties. So I want to recognize our Chief Judge, Judge Sams. We have Judge Ben Miller and Judge Ben Coker, and I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize my former boss, your county attorney, Pascal English, who had a vote in whether or not I had this position some 15 years ago. So, but thank you for this opportunity, and again, Jason teed it up just right. We have a total of 23 judicial employees, 16 support staff, secretaries, staff attorneys, court reporters that support our judiciary, and the Griffin Judicial Circuit, which comprises obviously Upson County. And we have 7 judges that make up that too. So for 23 employees, that's what we're asking. It's 2 resolutions, but really the impact to Upson would be, as he stated, $12,655 a year. This first 6 months obviously will be paid out of fund balance, which we've done well with, because we're very conservative with the resources that you'll provide us over the years, so we appreciate that. Since 1974, Spalding County used to be our fiscal agents for the circuit, but as the circuit grew, population grew, case count grew, we needed more analyses, and so we went with Fayette County, and they approved a 10.45% increase for these judicial employees. I can't recall if we remember the last time they had an increase, so we feel like this is very timely based upon circuits of our like sizes, with a similar amount of judges and employees, and this is what we're asking. So the overall impact would be, again, $12,000 a year for Upson County. If you look at the 4 counties, Fayette currently pays 50% of the judicial circuit. Budget, then Spalding, then Upson, and then Pike. I have been to Pike and Spalding. They have preliminarily approved this request. Obviously Fayette has, and so that's what brings us here tonight to ask for your support for our employees and our judges. Chairman, is there any questions you all may have? Again, we have Chief Judge here as well.
Yes, sir. So it is, for both resolutions we're looking at here, the total cost for the increase is $12,655.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay.
To become effective July 1, 2022.
Right. But the $6,327.50, that's effective
Yes, sir.
pretty quick.
July 1, 2022. We're going to take care of it right now through
Okay.
through June 30th.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We'll take care of that out of fund balance, so no cost to you right now.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
We're gonna do these as
Separate or is it?
separate, I mean, because I have a conflict.
I think since we've got them listed here, two separate items as new business, we'd probably vote on them separately.
Mr. Chairman, if I might add.
Absolutely.
One thing, this represents a 10.45% for employees, less than that for the judges. The percentage for the judges is less because we're capped at 50,000. But the beauty of meeting the cap is that more and more circuits are at that cap. More than a few times we've been faced with parties asking to recuse us when we've been involved in litigation concerning one of our counties. Legally, it's not a valid reason, but we have recused many times when we're in the process of asking for a raise in our supplements, simply because of the optics of the situation. But once we reach that cap, that game's over. So we're not knocking on your door anymore because we're capped by statute. So that would be it, and we would have the parties would have no reason to ask for a recusal in our cases. So we won't be reaching out to outside judges to come in and handle this kind of matters.
Thank you. Any questions? Well, there are no questions on this. So I guess right now I'll just ask, is there a motion on item L, the approval of resolution 02-2022, the increase of the supplement for the Superior Court judges?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
A motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Jason?
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes. And then following suit, item M, is there a motion on the approval of resolution 03-2022 to increase the compensation for each of the positions funded by the Griffin Judicial Circuit?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion? Hearing no other discussion. Jason?
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington?
I'd like to abstain, personal conflict, I have a family member that works for the circuit.
And Chairman Allen?
Yes. Okay. Y'all sat here and got to hear a lot of county business tonight just for this, and we really, really appreciate you coming down. And I will say how much we really appreciate y'all's due diligence over the last 2 years as we've struggled to move cases along and still do stuff. And I just ask you to just keep doing what you're doing, and let's get them processed and out of the jail and on the road to bigger and better things.
Mr. Chairman, you have a whole bench full of workhorses now.
We know.
I think we'll be pleased. I want to take a moment though to commend y'all in this meeting. It's been refreshing to see this in action. Me personally, and I think I speak for my fellow judges, but the politeness, the decorum that y'all conduct these meetings and carry on people's business, it's rewarding to see. And I thank y'all for that and for your support.
Well, thank you.
I want to put a plug in for your IT people too, that they've got our courtroom running like a top. So,
Yeah, just kind of commissioner.
And the big hurdle for them over the next 2 years is going to make sure that, as we move forward with the new court facility, that those IT needs are that we transition over to whatever the latest and greatest is, and it's a solution that's going to serve this community for a lot of years. Thank you, sir.
Reckon they can haul IT into contempt if they don't do the judicial.
Well,
I believe they can.
I wondered where they are on the priority list when the phone rings. Let's see.
Thank y'all.
Do I go to the sheriff's office or do I go?
Yeah, appreciate
Okay.
y'all sitting through that too.
Next on the agenda, county manager comments.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have just a few comments. One, appropriate timing. We did, speaking of our Judicial Center project, we had our, well, I wouldn't say it was our kickoff call, but it was our first official call on the bond issuance for the courthouse project today. So things are moving along from the financing side. We're working on our preliminary offering statement. So the wheels are in motion for that. We're looking at mid-spring to try to secure the financing, so we're way ahead of the game. Alan's staff's on top of it. Matter of fact, I think when we went through that hour-long call today, I was very pleased and surprised to see how little work we'll have to do this time around. So we look forward to that process. Before I move on, we have had our initial call with IPG, our architects. They're working on getting the draft contract to you, so we expect that to get it in our attorney's hands soon. I'm in receipt of Parrish's contract, and I've got actually Commissioner Watson's going to put a second eye on it for me, and then we'll have it over to English Law Group. That will for certain be on your next agenda. So really, that project is moving at the appropriate speed. Couple of other items. The grant submissions that we talked so much about, the infrastructure grant for the Thurston well rehab and the sewer extension into the industrial park, that along with the comprehensive broadband expansion grant that we submitted for state ARPA funds, those awards have been delayed. They said no later than January 30th in their communication. They were citing that, you know, final rules and regs have been promulgated by the feds on the use of those funds, so they're going to pause the review process on the submissions to make sure that all the funds are still applicable with the submissions they got. And there was one, and we have reinitiated the community COVID calls. I think the chairman took the call last week. I took the call this week. Some alarming positivity rates, just to give you a few from the hospital. They tested in 1 week about 1,200 people with a 41% positivity rate. Department of Public Health are testing, these are their numbers, anywhere between 60 and 100 a day in our community. And just depending on the day, it's between 40 and 50% positivity right there. Hospital says that their number of COVID inpatients is climbing again. It's at 36 critical. So that's just kind of the update from today. So that's the second week, and obviously as we sort of go through this third wave, we'll maintain that call for the foreseeable few weeks. The city was on the call, the school superintendent was on the call as well, just giving us brief operational updates. We do have as far as county operations, the board is aware, but while I have the opportunity to mention it again, you know, we're not unaffected by it here as well. We've got one department that's had basically been decimated on the administrative side, and we've had to close their office temporarily for a couple of days because we've had so many of them out sick. As a matter of fact, so many of them that we couldn't even really, in any legitimate way, supplement them from folks from other departments, because we didn't even have the expertise that could even help us run the office while we're there. So we made the unfortunate decision just to close the utility department to the public. Nothing is actually closed. It's just the only thing that's going to be difficult is people won't be able to pay cash in person this week. They'll still be able to do new services. They'll still be able to do cutoffs. They'll still be able to reach the office by phone. But while we have some folks that are out sick, we're going to have to unfortunately limit public access to the building.
If do they get any kind of, people that come to pay and they can't pay, they get any kind of leeway?
Yes, sir. We actually included that in the press release as well. Because Friday is actually the due date for the bills, I believe, we're offering a multi-week extension for people that may show up, and if their only means of paying is cash and they just can't pay the bill, then we're waiving the late fees for a few weeks, so it'll give the opportunity for the office to open back up and people to come back in. And not only are we sending that out to the press, but we're posting it on what's becoming a pretty successful venture on social media for us. So very pleased to see the growth in just a short time of our citizen engagement efforts. One last thing, Mr. Chairman, I didn't have it on my list, but I think there's a few days left to fill out, which is now our second community survey about people's preferences for hearing news about the county. So I believe I shared that to you in a separate email about a week and a half ago. I think we've got how many days left on that?
To the 18th.
Till the 18th.
Next Tuesday.
So,
Are you seeing participation?
So far, I think close to 200 people. I'd like a whole lot more than that. So yeah, spread the word if you can.
it's I believe a three-part question. And basically we're asking, you can list as many, what is your what's your preferred method of hearing from you? And actually, the commissioners, I think, have been in receipt of a couple of emails recently as a result of our outreach. So I see it as what's still very new for our organization, but successful.
I agree.
A lot of good information getting out there.
Another question. How many followers we got?
Close to 300, but we're reaching over 10,000 people a day, which is pretty
We got 300.
pretty great.
But you're reaching 10,000.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
A lot of people won't click the button.
Right.
At least
A
they
lot of
see
A lot of
it.
people don't want to
click the
follow.
button, but they're
Yeah.
seeing it, so it's good.
And some people do like to be told by other people what the
True.
news is.
Very true.
Oh, and Mr. Chairman, if I may, while we're on that, the chair and I have had a discussion. I haven't had the opportunity to share the thoughts behind the strategy. We've had some questions about, hey, why can't we make a comment on your post? Well, we encourage people to engage at all levels with the board, emails, phone, come and speak here. The main reason we don't allow comments is that if you look at other government pages where they do allow comments, so some of it's very inappropriate. A lot of the time you'll see that they take a turn into other conversations where they're not even related to the post. In other words, they tend to get hijacked and sort of lose the meaning of the post over time. We're just letting everybody know that we want to hear from everyone, but we want to know who they are and where they live. In other words, they can't. Just like we require here, name and address for the record. We want to hear a legitimate concern from a legitimate member of the community. I think what we're seeing on some other sites is, people that are not from the community making derogatory comments, and obviously the board's not interested in that. I mean, they're interested in actually hearing from people in a meaningful way, and rather than just having it a public forum. So what we're providing is an opportunity to engage in a meaningful way, not in I'm just going to write some inappropriate things just to get some eye-popping attention. So it's mainly to control language, to control tone, and so that we actually hear from the people individually.
Right. And it is no way set up this way to impede communications between people. In fact, I think we've made ourselves more available because things have changed and we've evolved, and so we're a lot more accessible. So that's why that stuff is out there, putting our email addresses out there. But the social media postings, we're not reaching out with, hey, what do you think type stuff on there for the most part. This is a way for us to tell folks what's going on. Mm-hmm. Now, if you want to debate what's going on, then please pick up the phone and call us, mm-hmm. Come see us. We're available. Come to a public meeting, mm-hmm. But meaningful dialogue. Exactly. But our posts are basically, this is what's going on. These are the facts. if you got questions on how you want to interpret those facts, then engage us in dialogue in an appropriate way, you know. So.
And every once in a while, when your staff puts out questions to the community, that we do have free-form sections where people can fill it out, but it doesn't share to everyone. You'll be able to read it and you'll be able to respond to it. It's just not.
It's controlled.
Right. Like I said, I've seen some pretty ugly stuff out there that you wouldn't want your children reading, or you wouldn't potentially wanting a company that was interested in making a large investment in your community reading. So it's for those reasons that we just don't allow free-form comments, but our staff's always encouraging people to have two-way dialogue.
Come here and say whatever you want to say.
5 minutes.
That's it. Or pick up the phone and call us, and you got more than 5 minutes, I promise you. Most times.
That concludes my remarks, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. English?
Enjoyed it.
Yes, sir.
Enjoyed it.
Mr. Wiley?
Yeah, I want to welcome everybody back from the holidays. It seems like everybody got in safe. That's great. And I am still awaiting that they brought it to the 21st century. I have some outdated equipment.
They'll take care of it. You know that IT department we were talking about?
Yeah.
They'll hook you up.
Well, the IT department has recommended a new one.
Yeah.
And we're in the process of.
Takes a long time to go to the Apple store, huh?
Hey, there's no one. There's not one locally.
Well, I got away from that. They provided me with a small, not a tablet, but a small laptop that I can do a lot more with it. So you might want to ask them. Let me get when I can open up spreadsheets. I'm just old school. I like Microsoft Office. I can open that stuff up. Don't teach me new stuff. Mr. Jones.
See you done?
I'm done.
Yeah. Appreciate everybody to come. I wish that I could have told everybody else I appreciated filling up the room and seeing people. I want to say go Dogs, yes. And it's amazing. My brother-in-law was played for the 81 Dogs, and he took the last interception of the game in 1981.
80 or 81? 80 was the year they won.
80. And
Clemson was the next year.
Yep. So, go Dogs.
There you go.
I also want to make I can't make a motion because we're just talking. But I would like to see on the agenda for the next meeting, a discussion among us with council present, that we talk about the waiver at the Civic Center. And it's not just Civic Center, it's the whole thing, according to what I know. So, and that's it. And happy vice chairmanship.
Mr. Watson.
Yeah, well, definitely got to say go Dogs, and want to take the time to congratulate one of our own. That's at the meeting. I mean, was at the game, Trevon Walker. He's represented our community very well, and I think he's off to a great future. So congratulations to the team and Trevon.
Saw pictures of Jessica
with
the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
There was a lot of people from here.
That's right.
I think made the trip. So
there's a lot of people that are tired today.
The Dogs got back today. Jessica didn't make it back today.
She was on the plane.
Yeah, they drove.
They drove.
Mr. Vice Chair.
Well, just a couple things. First of all, go Dogs. This is directed at Upson County. Trayvon Walker, he couldn't be more prouder. I mean, if that doesn't make you proud of your hometown, I don't really know what does. But that being said, I agree with Commissioner Jones. I'd like to see us have a public discussion about this waiver for the Civic Center. It's been an issue. I don't have the answers. I think we're going to lean heavily on council on it. I think we've already leaned on them, but I think we're here to represent the public, and the public's got a concern with it, and we need to address it. I don't know what those answers are, but I think we owe it to the public to have a public discussion about it. And that's all I got, Mr. Clerk.
I agree with that, and you know, we'll have that discussion. We'll get with Jason and ELG and Chaka and her staff and have this, and you know, weigh it out and make a decision from there. Excited about the work that we've done since we haven't had a meeting since all this started with our EMS service. That little thing that we've been focused on for the last 30 days, you know, jumping through hoops. It's moving along, and you know, we do expect that we'll have a positive approval from the Commissioner of Public Health, and I know AmeriPro is having career fairs, job fairs. So if you're watching and you want to serve your community, it's a great opportunity to do that in the EMS world, and so there's more evolving, but it looks like we will be on track to be up and running on February 14th, and so we kind of put it on your schedule for Friday, February 12th to have a kind of big kickoff for that, so that we're off and running when they start responding to calls that following Monday. Yeah, can't say enough about dogs, man. I was in the heart of Alabama country watching that game with a bunch of old Alabama friends, and I was the happy guy at the end of the day. But they've had their fair share, so it was awesome. Next on the agenda is an executive session. There will be no voting on anything coming out of executive session, but if you want to hang around, Mr. Piper, I think this will probably take about 5 minutes. I'm sure you have some questions for us. If not, we'll catch you later then. So is there a motion to go into executive session for potential litigation? Second. I have motion made and seconded. All in favor? We're going into executive session. Thank y'all. We'll be quick. Jessica, we just need to know how to turn off the YouTube thing. If you can suspend it with the executive session thing and go from there. For somebody's budget there.
That's fine. I'm gonna leave myself out. I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
Just
Tell you what.
they can
Okay.
provide me a Starbase.
Okay, yeah.
I have it right here, but
She got us.
I will make sure I get it back to you.
They got rice and rice.
We're live, gentlemen, we're live, so we're back into regular session. Is there a motion to, there being no further business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned. Thank you. We're still live for a moment.
Jessica was trying to, that was Jones Wilder. Ready to go.
Tired.
Tired. You've got it.
Already had,